I get people all the time saying like, you do a lot. And I'm like, yeah, but I want to do more. My buddy Jason from Bow Hunter Box Club, he's the reason the podcast is alive. Like, he is the sole reason. Mine has a whistle, a compass, and a thermometer all in one. You can do like, I don't know, yoga moves, like do like 90-degree shifts, and that bow is not going to fall off. I've stepped on water moccasins. I've stepped on rattlesnakes. Me and snakes, I don't know, like if we have some sort of destiny together. One of my favorite things to look at is old pictures, old hunting pictures. I love it. You won't find those guys wearing anything but plaid and jeans. That's one thing that people mistake me for, is like, oh, you're the hunting product guru. You know everything about everything. You're a guru. No. None of us know everything about everything. The biggest lesson I've learned is to focus on bringing value to others. Hey guys, this is Justin Wegner from Hunting Product Guru, and you are listening to Living Country in the City, episode 48.
Y'all ready for your dose of flyover state spirit? Straight from the concrete jungle? Well, put down your latte and pull on your boots. It's time for Living Country in the City.
Hey y'all, thanks for tuning in for episode 48 of Living Country in the City. I am up well before dawn to bring this podcast to y'all, and if y'all follow me on Instagram, you know that I am no stranger to getting up before sunrise, but typically my sunrise hikes do not require my brain to be functional yet, but I guess that's the fun and struggle of running a podcast, is working with folks in a bunch of different time zones with a bunch of different responsibilities and commitments. Now, if y'all are enjoying the podcast and want to see it grow and appreciate me waking up at the butt crack of dawn, make sure you take a moment to check out my support page. There's tons of ways you can get involved in and really be a part of Living Country in the City, whether that's by sharing the podcast, subscribing, leaving ratings and reviews, shopping with my affiliate links, or even more direct financial support through Patreon, which can really get you all some pretty sweet rewards for as little as $1 a month. So check that out at livingcountryinthecity.com/support. I'd really appreciate it. So now, bright and early with me today, I've got Justin Wegner of Hunting Product Guru. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about chasing your passions, as well as some about his essential gear for chasing Texas whitetails. So Justin, thanks for hopping on the show with me this morning.
Oh, Sam, thanks so much. This is definitely early for me. I know it's going to be. It's early for you, man. So we... You got the mountain knots all rocking, and I've got 2 cups of coffee here.
Hey, man, you know, whoever said podcasting wasn't a hard work has never done it, obviously.
It's definitely there are inconvenience of time zones and times that happen. So, yeah, thank you so much for having me on. I'm feeling pretty fortunate to be here.
No, absolutely. Well, you know, that's the benefit of doing what you love. It's never there's never too much work to do something that you're passionate about. So
that passion never dies.
So why don't you tell me a little bit just about yourself, how you got your introduction into hunting and got your start in the outdoors?
So how I got started in the outdoors was I wasn't even aware of it. My dad told me, he always likes to tell this story, and I'm hats off to him for doing it, because I didn't do it with my 2 kids, but he got me into hunting, and he started taking me when I was 6 months old. So still in a car seat, still running through diapers like crazy. And he took me to the deer blind. And he loves telling that story. And honestly, if I took my kids at 6 months old, I'd kind of want to tout that badge a little bit too. So hats off to him for doing that. But I started actually really getting started into hunting and actually taking and harvesting my own animals around 7 or 8 years old. I remember one of the first trips I got to go on with my dad. He covered my ears, because I always loved talking about hunting, but whenever he was with his buddy talking about going hunting the next day, he covered my ears, and he didn't know that I could still hear. So I didn't say anything, but he's like, hey, do you think we could let him go with us this trip? And the guy was like, yeah, dude. The guy filmed for a TV show at the time, and my dad, they let me go.
So you were a 7, 8-year-old kid going on your first hunting trip. How did that turn out?
So the first hunting trip was I don't know if you've ever hunted in Texas, but we have in like central Texas and the hill country where I grew up, deer population is insane. and it seemed like you could literally have a feeder anywhere, or you could be anywhere and you would be seeing deer. And so whenever we went out to this guy's house, basically, he had an old light caliber gun. And so we went out on his back porch and he was drinking coffee, and he knew that there was deer that would travel this kind of like creek bed every morning and every evening. And so I remember on that trip, that was whenever I took my first doe, was on that trip. And we were sitting on his back porch and there were just deer galore everywhere. And I was 7 or 8 years old. And man, I remember that trip having such a profound impact on me, because being so young, you can go one or two ways. You can go the route of having not care about life yet because you're so young and you're just doing what you see your generations before you doing, or maybe you've played video games and you've shot a gun at something, or, like I didn't play active shooter games or anything like that, but I played a lot of like Cabela's Big Game Hunter. So I was always shooting animals, like even virtually. And so, but that you could either go one or two ways. You could go the route of, oh, I just shot something, or the route I took and the route that I still take today is I killed something. And it's not with a light heart that I do that. So I remember that trip. I was extremely happy, but I was extremely sad at the same time, because of what just happened.
So now you've gone from this little kid. Did you continue hunting through your school years, through high school, through college, all of that?
So I started hunting at that young age, and I harvested my first animal. The next year I bumped up, like, it was weird. I shot it with like a 223 or a 22 230 or something like that, and there was a lot of twos in there. It was not a 22 because that's a rim fire, and you can't shoot a deer with that. But and then the next year, like, my dad graduated me to a 7 mag. So I went from a lower caliber gun that had no kick to a 7 mag, and it was kind of like, all right, man, I think you're ready. Just use this one. So
putting you through the back wall of the deer blind.
Yeah, luckily we had practiced long beforehand, and I was comfortable with the gun. That's the thing. You can shoot the biggest caliber gun, or you can shoot the smallest caliber gun. I choose to shoot what I'm comfortable with and what I'm confident in. But to answer your question, not going off too much of a tangent there, but yeah, I hunted the rest of my middle school, elementary, high school, and a little bit into college. College is where I got the bug to go fish, because I went down to the coast here in Texas to a school called Texas A&M University, Corpus Christi. And so that's that.
So now, what took you from hunting and fishing through college and all of that? What prompted Hunting Product Guru? What got you where you're at now?
One word, cars, got me into Hunting Product Guru. I was working with a guy, a friend of mine, a real close friend of mine. We're still really good friends. I worked with him, and he would get new cars to drive every week. And I would just ask him, I was like, man, how do you do that? Like, I liked the cars that he would get, because he'd get Corvettes and, all the fancy stuff. But then he'd also get like the family sedan or the vans. I wasn't as interested in those. But what I was really interested in was the trucks that he was getting. And we were having coffee one time, and I said, man, I just want to ask, like, is there any way that I could help you? And he looked at me and he said, it's a lot of work to review cars. He's like, think about it and get back to me. And I did. The very next day. Hey, how can I help? Because I was interested, like I'm one of those people that I'm very driven. I'm not a sit back and wait for it kind of guy. Like, I will pursue whatever needs to be pursued, without a doubt, like, within reason, So we were talking, and he said, he's like, we'll get you started, man. He's like, what you got to do is write 5 stories about cars. And I wrote the 5 stories. He loved them. He published them on his online publication. And then from there, I started getting cars. And believe it or not, my dad saw the trend. Like in life, you find people that are doing what you want to do, and you successfully, and you figure out how to replicate that for your business or for your arena. So cars and hunting were completely different. And my dad called me one time and he said, "Hey, we have a lot of hunting product. You have a lot of hunting product. I do. We've just got tons of it that we've accumulated over the years. You want to start a reviewing online forum for products, basically how you do for the cars and trucks?" And I said, "Yeah, the only way I'm going to do it is I'm going to be completely honest, just like I was with the cars. Like the cars, I would complain about freaking cup holders because it was annoying. Like you'd be driving, going to have a drink and the cup holder, slip would just always come out. Or, you'd go to put a normal size cup that anybody would ever get, and the cup holder would be like 3 times the size, and you just have a drink sloshing. So the point is, like, I didn't hold anything back on the reviews because you really don't have anything to lose. You're not going to keep this car. You're not going to go buy it. So I told my dad that I want to make sure that if we're going to replicate that for the hunting industry, that's what needs to happen in my book, because we had an immediate conversation. We both filmed for outdoor television shows, and we both had people where we would do commercial shoots about a product that was sponsoring the show, and they wouldn't even believe in the product. And so they were just basically collecting a paycheck. And I told my dad that I'm not going to get into that. Like, if that starts to happen, I'm out. And my dad was like, all right. He's like, let's do it. So in 2014, I went live in it was the end of November or the beginning of December with huntingproduct.guru. So I designed everything. I did the website by myself. I did all the graphics. I did all the social media stuff. Like I did and still do everything. So that's how it started. I know it's probably like a longer explanation than just like, oh, we did this, and this. But I think it's cool that this, in a world where so many people are doing so many things, there's opportunities to learn from every industry, and learning from the car industry to replicate that into the hunting world has served me in the hunting community, I think, very well, because honesty is just the way to go.
Well, and it's a good story to hear, because I think a lot of people, new to hunting or even that have been hunting a while and kind of want to take that next step and be like, I want to maybe start developing something that can turn into a revenue stream to where I can hunt professionally, or where I can be involved in this industry professionally and not just have it be like something I do a few weekends out of the year while I have to, struggle through the day job. So I definitely think those stories are super valuable to new hunters and just even folks that are kind of figuring out what they want their place in the hunting industry to be. So
yeah, I mean, you can look at hunting shows, and you can look online. You can go surf through social media channels galore, and you will find people that really hunt all the time, and then you'll find people who say they really hunt all the time. And there's a big difference. I've never been one to lead anybody on like, hey, I hunt every weekend, because the fact of the matter is, if I hunted every weekend, I wouldn't be married or have kids. Or if I hunted 7, 15 days in a row, I wouldn't be married. Like, it just, I respect my wife and she respects my passions, but I also know that my family needs my time too.
No, and that's really good of you. And, I think that's with anything in life, it's all about learning, one, where your priorities are, and then 2, how to balance all of those priorities with your passions and things like that. Just with anything you do. And I think that's a lifelong learning process. I don't think anyone has it perfect, but some people do it better than others, I guess. Yeah,
I would say that's probably about right. Is some people do it better than others because they've had time harnessing that skill longer than others. Being socially aware of your surroundings and your family and your priorities and your passions. Being aware of it's the first step. It's just taking action and making sure that you're keeping true to all of it. And that's where Hunting Product Guru was. And my wife, she would, in the beginning of Hunting Product Guru, and I did a few solo episodes of my podcast, and I told people, the truth about Hunting Product Guru didn't always have my wife's support. She was, because in the beginning, it was like anytime I had a free moment, I was always working on Hunting Product Guru, getting the website up, making changes. When you push something live, you realize, oh no, dang it. I should have thought about this, should have thought about that. And then, doing all that plus the reviews, like, dude, it was insane. And my wife she wasn't seeing a whole lot of support from my dad at the time. And so that's kind of really what drove her away from the supporting side of Hunting Product Guru early on. So I just stayed persistent. I knew that this was my dream and my passion. And, nobody does the work better than you when you want it done and you want it as good as it can be. So I had to take that opportunity those early years it was a struggle. It was a struggle for me and my family, but we made it through it. And I believe we're still going to face adversity throughout this journey, but it's going to be so worth it whenever I can have something I built for my son and he can come up through the ranks learning exactly like I did to do whatever he wants to do. Showing my son that it's possible is showing my kids that it's possible.
Well, and I think there's nothing more exciting than being able to, and definitely probably scarier either, but than really being able to work for yourself and know that, you built it from the ground up and you're not working to make someone else money. I mean, and there's nothing wrong with doing that. I mean, I do that, and I personally, I love the day job. I work for some great folks, but there's just something about knowing that you're working for yourself that makes it so much more worth it.
Well, I mean, just to be clear, I don't work for myself yet. It's getting there. But the point is it's taking, 3.5, 4 years to get this thing going in the right direction. And it's been many, 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 many years before that to gain the knowledge of reviews and the knowledge of what I had to do to connect to people that led it to here. So, I mean, yeah, there's nothing wrong with working for somebody else if that's what whatever you're passionate about. If you're passionate at your day job, there is still time to really push forward and be the best you can be in that position. Like I listen to a lot of podcasts. Like I listen to a few hunting podcasts, but I listen to a lot more podcasts like the MFCEO Project. And Andy Frisella is very big on, you are the CEO of your own life. So when somebody looks at you and they're getting to know you, what kind of CEO are they going to see of you? And that to me is like, whenever I connected those dots, like a few months ago, I immediately started changing my tune to like, I am the CEO of my own life. And guess what? There's a lot of stuff about my own life that needs to change. And so I don't work for myself yet, but and there's nothing wrong with working for someone else because I still like majority of the aspects of my job. I do. And my commute is over an hour. So
ooh, I've done that.
Yeah. And I've been doing that for 5 years. So it's definitely, I support that. Hey, if that's what your passion is and that's what you like to do, and if it serves you well to do those things, then go for it. I've reached a point in my life where it's taken me a while to realize that I have the potential to do more, and that's where my life has got to amount to something, and it's not going to amount to something if I sit there and think about what it could be, what it would be if I did this, if I did that. So I'm taking more time now to focus on those things.
So you mentioned, as we were talking a little bit about the podcast, you just started that up this year. How's that been going?
Rough. I had a plan in the beginning to do a podcast release every Tuesday. So I was going to be one of the ones that like, you could count on me every Tuesday. And when you first start anything, it's going well. It's like people are excited about it. You're excited about it. Then like life happens. We had our first daughter in August of 2016. She turned a year old in August. So July, August, I mean, it was just like a nightmare. She went from sleeping quite a bit to not sleeping hardly at all. Podcast guests, I mean, you and I have had a little bit of trouble connecting, getting our schedules lined up. I mean, trying to get somebody, one or two people lined up every week is just extremely difficult. I was not very confident in a lot of my, radio talk or, whatever. Like I just, there has to be an amount of self-confidence that comes with being able to talk with somebody that's not there. And so it's a struggle, but I've always embraced those struggles, and I've always been one to realize the growth that can happen because of it and the being uncomfortable. So when I started at the Hunting Product Guru podcast in July, I had the thought to do the podcast long before that. And my buddy Jason from Bowhunter Box Club, he's the reason the podcast is alive. Like he is the sole reason, because he said merely 2 words whenever I told him that I wanted to do a podcast but I may not, but I really want to. And he said, he just said, why not? Like he literally was like, why not? And I was like, well, because I don't know if anybody gained it. He's like, who cares? Why not? If the podcast helps one person, I don't see the point in not doing it. Like you've got to, push yourself and, work hard and all that stuff. And I was like I was taken back by that because we hadn't known each other that long. And so the podcast got started, and it's going as good as it can go during a full work schedule, the hunting season, Hunting Product Guru, my media production business. Like I get people all the time saying like, you do a lot. And I'm like, yeah, but I want to do more. Don't know if that's healthy or not.
No, I'm with you, man. It's I don't know. It's like a drug almost. I mean, like we talked about earlier, it's just, when you're passionate about something and you see ways you can expand it. And I mean, that's been my struggle. I mean, this whole month is I keep taking on, this is probably one of the second busiest time of my year with the day job. Like there's the piling on the work I have to do. And I keep finding myself taking on more side, I refer to it as the side hustle. I keep taking on more projects to do with that and the podcast and the website. And I'm trying to get the blog a little bit more active than it has been. That was how I originally started all of this. Was I was like, it was this whole thing, people would come to me, my friends, they'd see me posting about like shooting my bow or whatever on or going to line dancing or whatever, listening to country music, whatever it may have been. And they're like, I didn't know people did that in LA. Where do you do that? And so I'm like, maybe I'll start. I had some friends that had just started like an Instagram and a blog. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. I've never really had anything interesting to talk about before. Maybe I'll just share kind of what I do. So, and like events and places people can go. And I think I was like, I'm going to do 2 blogs a month. That's super easy to do. I can super handle that. I think in the first year, I maybe did 4 total. And so that's
1 a quarter.
Oh man, it was bad. But so then I kind of, I started getting more into podcasts, and one that I listened to, completely unrelated to hunting, it got me, he was really good about talking about how he started and encouraging his listeners to, start their own. And they, there's this private Facebook group, and we would, exchange tips, and I was kind of part of that. And I'm like, I could do this. Like it takes me a while to get motivated to write. I can write well when I'm motivated to, but that motivation doesn't come very well. Talking, on the other hand, I can call someone up and just BS for hours with no problem.
Might as well that conversation.
Exactly. It took a while to get used to hearing my own voice, and I hated that for like probably the first 10 episodes.
Yeah.
I was just like, I wouldn't even listen to them past like just making sure, past like the initial edit. I'd give it like 1 listen through, but I just could not listen to my podcast at all, because I'm like, oh gosh, that dude that's interviewing this guy sounds like an idiot.
The first comment I got from Jason, the one who encouraged me to do the podcast, he said, "You got a face for radio." I was not
man.
I had never heard that comment before, and then I had to look it up, and I was like, God, what a. But he's just kidding. I mean, he's one of those people that, like, I do a lot of work for Bowhunter Box Club, and it's, you know, it's grown into doing quite a bit now. And anytime I get together to film a promo or, you know, get something or talk to him about a product, talk to him about something serious, like it's not happening. Like it's some sort of funny wisecrack joke every time.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely a big fan of Jason's. I had him on let's see which one, episode 29. He's a good guy. We had a lot of fun talking about Bowhunter Box Club, and you know, that was another good episode, just talking about starting, you know, wanting to start something and become independent and work for yourself in something related to the hunting industry. So that was Jason's a really good guy. Probably shouldn't be saying this on the air. He'll get a big head or something, but you know.
Jason, you're listening. This is just free publicity for you. That's
there
it.
There we
go. Don't get a big head, dude. No, he's a really cool dude. Whenever he told me he was on your podcast, I had heard of your podcast before. I hadn't listened to any episodes yet, and then I listened to his, and then I was like, okay, cool, I'll subscribe. Because it was the biggest thing, man, about podcasts that I wanted to make sure and stay true to was, how do I convey or talk honestly with someone that I don't know I'm talking to? And then it just is like, just talk, just be honest, you know, with your guest, be honest with yourself. You know, going back to I wanted to publish every Tuesday thing, I'm getting better about that. It is definitely that, though, coming down to the wire of Monday night.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes, like, getting the episode prepared to publish on Tuesday morning. But nonetheless, it's led to a few solo podcasts that aren't quite an hour long. And I've honestly had a lot of people respond well to those, because I thought they were kind of goofy. I was like, man, this feels weird. I'm talking to myself. I'm staring off in the distance, and I'm doing the hand motions, and like I don't have any video interaction. So like, can't even see myself talk. And I was like, man, this is awkward. And I had so many people. I did 2 of them back to back, and because it's hard to get a guest schedule at that time, did 2 of them back to back, and I had quite a few people, more than a handful, say like, this was really inspiring. Like, you inspired me to get off my ass and go do something, or you inspired me to really think about, you know, a certain topic. One of them was high fence hunting, and good Lord, did I get a lot of flack for that. And it spurred a lot of great discussion, but a lot of, you know, eyes opening on both sides, right? Like, I've been hunting in Texas my whole life. I've hunted on ranches, low fence and high fence. I've hunted public land. I've hunted private land. So like, I know the majority of most of it. I don't know backcountry hunting, public land hunt yet, but like I said, that's going to happen next year.
Yeah. One of these days I'll be brave enough to take on a solo podcast and put something out there that's just me doing a little bit of exposition on something, but we'll see. Maybe maybe after a successful season or something like that, when I have when I feel like I might have something to say. But who knows? One of these days I just might get fed up with something enough to where I'll flip on the recorder and go on a rant and and see how much trouble I can get in.
That's what started it, was seeing so many people say they couldn't do something, or they wish they had time to do this and wish they had time to do that. Meanwhile, in the same breath, they're telling me like, you do so much. And I'm like, yeah, but I mean, I get 6 hours of sleep maybe. And whenever I finally do get to sleep, I have one crying kid generally over something, whether they're sick or just one. Like, my son got up middle of the night last night. Our daughter finally slept through the night, and my son decided to get up in the middle of the night because he had a Charlie horse. And I was like, oh, bro, I know those hurt, but can you please go back to bed?
Oh, man.
Sorry, I don't. This is what happens on whenever I interview guests. Is like we'll go on like a wild tangent talk like this. So I don't know where you're at, but sorry to kind of deter there.
No, not at all. Yeah, I'll get us back on topic eventually, but
yeah.
No. So I mean, so speaking of that, I've focused a little bit more. I've done a little bit of whitetail hunting. That was kind of my first foray into hunting before I ever knew backcountry Western hunting, if you will, existed. I had an ex whose grandparents had several hundred acres out in Mississippi, and just more tree stands out there than I could count, and most of them were probably about 20 years older than I was. And the kind of tree stands, old metal ones that are 90% grown into the tree.
Oh yeah.
Those kind of things. And so I sat out there with them and over Thanksgiving one year, but I didn't really do much. I think I saw a total of 4 deer the entire time. One was a gorgeous buck, but it was probably about 15-20 yards outside my max range, let alone my effective range. So that was my first foray into hunting, but really I focused most of my study and research on backcountry hunting, and especially elk. But come this February, I think is what I've been looking at. I've been doing some work for a friend in the hunting industry. I've been helping her out redesigning her website and doing some work. And in exchange, I'm coming out to Texas probably this February, and we're gonna. It sounds like we're gonna do a little bit of hog hunting, because you guys get to do all the fun stuff we can't do out here in California. And
have guns.
And I think they might also put me on a few deer. So, I figured maybe we could talk a little bit about that, since, like I said, I've been focused mostly on the backcountry, and I've got this hunt coming up. And I've got some stuff I know what to bring, but might be good to look to the hunting product guru to figure out exactly kind of what would be good to prep for, and what would be good to bring along with me.
So I'll kind of go through some of my favorite products that I use, and kind of what I always keep in my pack, and what I put first in there whenever I'm repacking or just checking everything, because primarily I do whitetail hunting here in Texas, and like I said, I do private land hunts, and I do public land hunts sometimes, high fence and low fence. Well, the very first thing I always keep in my bag, like religiously, is water. Like I will keep an 8-ounce deal of water as a backup. Whether it be like washing your hands after you get done cleaning a deer, and then I also have a water bladder that goes in my pack, and it's really convenient. It's a backcountry style type setup, but it's not backcountry. So like backcountry, you'll have tents, you'll have food, you'll have all sorts of shelter, you'll have a water filtration system. In Texas, I just don't need that a whole lot. I don't have a whole lot of need for that. So I don't really focus primarily on like packing that stuff. But what I do is, being a product guy, and like I love product, I love testing product, love trying it out. My pack is pretty full, almost all the time. So, man, I keep water in there. I keep for safety reasons, I keep a blaze orange vest in my pack all the time, because there's really no need to not be safe wherever you're at. So if I happen to go somewhere where there's public land, I don't have to worry about, is my orange, somewhere at the house, in the studio, or in the garage, or I don't have to worry about that. It's just always in there, along with the orange hat that's probably smushed in the bottom of this thing. But I'm not out there to look pretty. I'm out there to be safe. And
So actually, really quick, if you don't mind me taking it back to the water bladder, what bladder do you use? Because I've used a few different ones, and I've tried to use, I've used water bladders that are solely for just storing the water. I've used ones that have some good, like a little hose kit with them. I recently, when I was at the International Sportsman's Expo in Salt Lake, I was looking at different products. I picked up, I think it was a Geiger rig, one of those, ones you pump up and you can spray. And I noticed that worked great as long as I didn't have a filter on it. The second I put a filter on it, I mean, it just slowed down to a trickle, and it was not at all what it was promised. And so I'm just curious kind of what you use, what you might recommend as far as water bladders.
So water bladders, whenever I got this pack from, I got this pack, and no pack's cheap. No pack's inexpensive. It's just what are you willing to fork out for the quality? And just for my whitetail rig, like I have Alps outdoor packs, and that one that I'll be taking to Montana next year. But so I have high dollar packs, but this is my like whitetail rig, and I'll take it almost everywhere I go. The very first time I got this, my water bladder split open, and I had water everywhere, and I was just super pissed, And so I literally went to Walmart on a trip, and I was like, I'm just going to try this water bladder because my other one ripped open. I need water out here because I was going for an all-day hike. It was a private ranch, but I was going all day. I wasn't coming back. And dude, this Outdoor Products, I believe it's a 2-liter. Yeah, a 2-liter water pouch. It's been extremely awesome. Like, it's just buy Outdoor Products. I mean, that's the name of the brand, and it holds 2 liters of water. It's got a nice hose. It came with like a replacement like bite mark or a bite tube, so water doesn't fling everywhere, and it doesn't like just drip out all the time. Man, it's awesome. So I used it on that like all day hike trip around the ranch in search for whitetail and hog, where I saw 3 does, but I never got to, like, I was hunting with my bow too, so it was all spot and stock style. And man, I just can't say enough things about having water. Like, you gotta stay hydrated anywhere.
All right, let's pause 1 minute to hear a quick word from one of my partners. All right, y'all, so we know that there's countless box club offers out there catering to all different kinds of people and interests, from fishing to shaving, exercising, skincare, and whiskey. Just about anything you could think of. But none of them ever really appealed to me until I came across a newcomer to the arena, Bowhunter Box Club. Bowhunter Box Club is the only subscription box club service out there geared specifically for bow hunters. And I mean, who doesn't love getting a box packed full of awesome new bow hunting gear delivered directly to their doorstep every month? Now here's the deal. Each month they'll deliver a box filled with around $60 to $70 worth of awesome new products and gear for you to try out. Previous boxes have included gear such as broadheads, bino adapters, stands, gear hoists, and bow slings from companies like Vortex, Phone Scope, and Boning. This is quality gear that you've either been wanting to try out or really didn't know you needed. Now you can choose from a bunch of different subscription plans that'll fit your budget. You can go month to month or save even more by selecting a long-term prepaid subscription. On top of that, for a small annual fee, you can join their VIP Pass-Through Club. Pass-Through Club members get exclusive access to buy discounted bow hunting gear that won't fit in the monthly box. What's even better is you're entered into monthly giveaways for incredible bow hunting gear like a Matthews bow or a Vortex spotting scope package. They're even giving away hunts. Now the best part is you can get 10% off your first month of any subscription plan by using code COUNTRY10, and you can get $10 off the VIP Pass-Through Club membership by using code COUNTRYVIP. Get both of those codes and more discounts from awesome outdoor companies by visiting my partners page at livingcountryinthecity.com/partners. So I remember from my time in the tree stand, the one thing, this was November. So obviously, we're not talking like middle of the summer in Mississippi or anything, but I remember just freezing my ass off in that tree stand. Like, I did not realize what cold was until you're sitting in a metal tree stand, like, and I brought like some decently warm gear with me and base layers and everything, but there's just something about sitting in that metal tree stand that sucks all of the joy and warmth from your entire life straight out through your butt, basically. Your butt and back. What as far as, you know, keeping warm in the tree stand, what would you recommend?
Definitely get a good base layer. And I would recommend getting like a wool setup, because that wool is going to keep you extremely, extremely, you know, significantly warmer than most other layers. The biggest thing that I'll say about this is, you know, your body warmth and your temperature, it comes out of your extremities, or, you know, escapes the extremities. So your head and your feet and your hands. And I always start with the boots. So get a good set of, you know, thick, heavy duty boots for sitting. Like if you're doing primarily sitting, like you'll want a good like thermal type boot. Like you're going to want to make sure that your feet, whenever they're sitting there completely still, are warm. And if they're not warm, that is where a majority of your heat is going to escape, and you'll get extremely cold really quick. The next thing is gloves. Like a lot of us now, we'll sit there in the tree stand when we're not seeing anything, you know, playing on our phones, thinking like, oh, we'll take off our glove and play on our phone. But that's not a good idea. You don't want to do that. So there's a couple types of gloves that I recommend. Like whenever I hunted in Nebraska, it was extremely cold and windy for a couple days, like snowing. I'd never hunted in snow until then, and I usually get those gloves, the full finger gloves, but then also the gloves that have the like just the straight up pouch that turns it into a mitt. Mm-hmm. Because, you know, it is, when you're out and about, like the hunting style that we were doing there, like we were hunting 600 acre, you know, sections at a time that we had permission to hunt. Some of it was public, some of it was private, but it was all low fence. And so like whenever it was time to come in, I would call my dad and be like, all right, man, I'm ready to be picked up. Or, you know, we'd call, you know, Chuck would call us and like, hey, I got a deer down. I need some help getting it. So being able to have access to your phone was significant in that moment, but I wouldn't put that over your body's warmth. So gloves, you know, good underlayer, some wool is going to serve you extremely well. Your hat choice, believe it or not, a lot of people don't pay attention to their hat choice when they're going hunting. Like this hat is a breathe back hat, so it breathes really well. But then I also have I don't have one out here usually, which is weird because I usually have hats everywhere. I have tons of hats. Like I am not short on hats here. People started sending me a lot of hats, so I had to make a special hat rack in my closet I probably have 30 or 40 hats.
Well, I know the pain. I keep getting rid of them, but I try and get rid of hats, and I still end up with more than I started with.
They come back. They don't they're the opposite of disappearing socks.
Hey, I thought your point about the boot was interesting because, you know, it's, you know, from my perspective, most of the boots I own, they're specifically geared towards packing out huge amounts of weight, you know, over long distances, you know, rough terrain, things like that. They're a hiking boot. They're built for support. You know, some of the boots are definitely built for, they're waterproof and built a little more for warmth, but it's not, you know, it's not necessarily something I would have thought of. I didn't actually think about that, to where, you know, okay, if I'm sitting in a tree stand, or if I'm, you know, more on private land where I'm not necessarily hiking, you know, 10, 12 miles a day, I don't need to focus on a boot that's geared towards that. Focusing on one that's just solely or more solely focused on warmth and keeping that body heat in is probably an important thing.
That was one of the first lessons that I remember learning from my dad, was pay attention to your body temperature, because how long you can sit or be out hunting depends on how comfortable or uncomfortable you are. Because I mean, we have grown into, like, imagine, a few hundred years ago, like, could we live back then? Like, could I right now, like last night, it was kind of cold in our house. So I walked 15 feet, turned the heater on, and like they didn't really have that luxury a few hundred years ago of just being able to go flip a switch and turn blast heat in your house. So my dad, I attribute me learning my body temperature awareness from him, and not to, you don't want frostbite on your toes, or I mean, you will hate the walk out. I promise.
Are there any, once again, because like I know all the brands, I know all the boots when it comes to hiking and packing weight, and I've done an episode with Crispy on that and everything. But what are there any particular boots you might recommend? And obviously, boot fit's a personal thing, but
Yeah, the one that I use. So people laugh at me for this, but the majority of the wear that I have here in Texas, because it is generally almost always warm here, or a temperature that I can probably be outside for multiple hours at 60 degrees, 50 degrees here in shorts, because I love that weather. Sitting is a different story in it, but the point is, like, I don't, in that temperature or that particular climate, general area in the 50s, I pay attention to the boot I wear, but I generally, my favorite boot is a Justin snake boot, a snake proof boot. Like, they're my favorite boot. I wear them constantly. They're wore in very well. And I generally, whenever it's warm, I hunt in those, because I've stepped on water moccasins. I've stepped on rattlesnakes. Me and snakes, I don't know, like, if we have some sort of destiny together, but I don't like snakes. And so I always generally wear those boots. But my go-to boot for any other time is definitely going to be my muck boots. I have a pair of muck boots that are, I believe they're 500 is it grains or grams or whatever of insulation, grams, I believe. Yeah, see, I don't know everything about everything. And that's one thing that people mistake me for, is like, oh, you're the hunting product guru. You know everything about everything. You're a guru. No. None of us know everything about everything. But yeah, so that's generally my go-to boot is that one.
So now, when you're going to these stands, especially with whitetail, I know scent's an important thing as well. And maybe getting into a couple things. You're wearing your Cirrus hat, so maybe talking a little bit about playing the wind, checking the wind.
Get me back on topic here. I like that. Yeah, so paying attention to your scent and the wind is going to be your best friend. And I think I love camo. I love camo companies. I love what they're doing. But to be honest with you, some of the best and biggest deer I've seen killed, or one of my favorite things to look at is old hunting pictures. I love it. But you won't find those guys wearing anything but plaid and jeans, or a solid, shirt and jeans. So paying attention to wind, whether they paid attention then to the wind or not, I don't know. But I guarantee, like, more times than not, I've been downwind of an animal, and they haven't seen me, they haven't heard me, and I've stood in the middle of, I've stood wide open. I was turkey hunting one year, not this last year, but the year before, and me and a buddy of mine stood in the middle of a field downwind of about a 200-pound hog or more, and never saw us. I mean, wide open. So camo is important, but that wind is definitely going to be your number one ally or your enemy, and paying attention to it is key. So what I use, obviously I'm a product guy, so I have all sorts of product for scent control and scent killing. I've found that nose jammer, I use that for, like, taking a shower beforehand. And then I use the scent killer wash detergent, for the washer to wash the clothes. And then, yeah, I use my Cirrus wind indicator to check the wind. And what's cool about that product is like, no, I've had it for almost 2 seasons and I've never charged the thing. So like I've almost had this thing out of the box for almost 2 years and I've never charged it once. I've changed the cartridge, which even says more about the battery. I've changed the cartridge to test out the other scents that they have. They have an earth scent, a pine scent, like an acorn scent or something like that. And I've checked those cartridges just to see what they smell like. And I put the cloud formula back in there, and that battery's still rocking almost 2 seasons. So the great thing about that wind checker that a lot of powder doesn't do is it'll either rise or fall, and you'll get to check your thermals that way. So you could have a scent, or your scent could be carrying to the deer, but if you see that it's rising, generally, depending on the distance, you're going to be okay. But the moment that starts to fall into the animal's, nasal cavity areas, you're in trouble. Which is why that's why it's very key to pay attention to the wind.
Definitely. I am a big fan. That was a total setup because I am a big fan of Cirrus and the wind indicator. I've actually talked with a few guys and the topic has come up and or I've seen it on, in different Facebook groups and, everyone's complaining. It's, oh, I didn't bring enough, or, oh, I left my bottle, or, oh, I got some moisture in there and it clumped everything up, or this, that, or the other, or gosh, oh, I went to refill it and had to get up really fast and ended up spilling it all over myself. I mean, I've never heard of a product that people have more trouble with, it seems like, than those little squeeze bottles of.
It's trivial. It's like,
yeah,
a lot of people, they don't, when you tell them about that thing, it's different. And a lot of times people are resistant to different because it leads to change. And a lot of people don't like change. They've been doing it this way for 25 years. Why change now? Like it's been working for 25 years. And it's like, yeah, we have a lot of different technologies now than we did 25 years ago. So let's use it. Like, let's take advantage of it. And so I bought the first unit because I was that excited to get to try this like innovative product. As I was like, dude, like they're playing on the whole vape thing, and that vape thing was big, a few years ago. And I was like, man, how is this going to work? Am I going to want to carry this in my pocket or what? How long will it last? And I've been extremely blown away by that company, Jim Angot. I don't know him. Like I said, I told you earlier, I don't know him personally, but we do talk on the phone. So I know him as far as like on the phone personally, not like face to face. But that guy is he's a hardworking guy, came up with an idea, and he's pursuing the American dream, and you can't, there's something to be said about that. So supporting, paying $40 for a wind checker, to me, whenever you put it in a different light, like, hey, this is somebody's dream and passion, and guess what? It can work for you. There's two causes there that you're supporting. You're getting to try something new, innovative in this industry, and then guess what? You're getting to support somebody in living their dream. And if you got a problem with that, then I just don't know if we can be friends.
No, definitely. I mean, and it's a great product. It's just rechargeable via USB. Yep. So, you're not even carrying extra batteries, anything like that. And with most people nowadays, you're already carrying a pile of battery packs to recharge your GoPros or cameras or your headlamp or whatever, your GPS or whatever it is. You can kind of unify that as much as humanly possible. I think it's definitely a bonus, and like you said, it lasts forever. You almost never have to recharge them. Those little refills are good for thousands of, it seems like, of puffs, and I've yet to see the size of the wind checker bottle that could match that.
That's a good point. Yeah, I would run out of space in my pack if I had to equate a baby powder type formula for the amount of puffs you get out of the vape. Cirrus wind indicator.
Well, and I think that's, for for regardless of how you hunt, there's the first thing anyone will tell you is the wind is your greatest ally or your biggest enemy. And I think with a product like that, you're more likely to check the wind more. You're not afraid of overuse, whatever that may be. So, you're pretty much, this is something you're never going to have to worry about running out of it,
Well, here's something, about those powder ones. When like I said, I've not chased elk yet. I have done spot and stalks on whitetail, with my bow, and I've gotten pretty dang close. The biggest thing, the difference that you're going to find with those, with the Cirrus wind indicator that the other ones don't offer, is almost every time you watch somebody pull out the old style of wind checker, what do? They create a lot of movement and they shake it up to get that powder to kind of unsettle, and then they get the puff on. Like that Cirrus, you just, I have it sitting on my neck, so you just pull it up just a little bit and out, and then just give it a couple squeezes, and it's minimal movement. And your wind is going to be your biggest thing, but if you're closing the distance, your movement's going to be your next enemy or ally.
So now, what else are some interesting products that I may not know about that you tend to keep in your pack with you?
So I'm very much you brought up batteries and lights and things like that. I'm very much a safety first kind of guy. I've witnessed firsthand a lot of accidents. I've heard secondhand of some major tragedies. And so I just don't think there's enough to be there. There can never be enough said about having, being safe and safety measures and stuff like that taken. So one of the first things that I buy and put on a pack is a compass. Always have a compass. Generally, I get the ones that have, the SOS whistle type thing on there. Or the temperature that you pay attention to. Mine has a whistle, a compass, and a thermometer all in one, because you can't. A lot of us, we rely on this too much. Our phones, I'm one of them. So past that, I keep lights in my pack. If you're out and about and you're getting to the point where you're starting to really lose light and your phone is dead, or, the temperature's dropped enough where your phone battery doesn't work for your light anymore. Always having light is key. So I keep 2 lights in my pack at all time. What else? So here in Texas, I use, let me see here. Here in Texas, there's a cool product. And I'll talk about it here, but I haven't technically reviewed it, and I haven't written my post about it, and I kind of, so I'm kind of jumping the gun a little bit, but it's a product that is actually on my pack. I have used, and I somewhat stand behind. I don't really, there's a few cons to it as far as like reach and stuff like that, but I don't know if you've ever heard of the bow snatcher.
Oh yeah.
So generally I keep my bow on my shoulders, but there's very few times where I want to have that booger in the back. And so I have that on this pack. Like I said, I've used it before. It's great. It's sometimes hard to reach though. And it could just be the placement on my pack. So full disclosure, I would buy it again in a heartbeat. I just think it's one of those products you gotta train with. You gotta use more often than I technically get to.
So I'm familiar with Bow Snatcher, but for folks that aren't, maybe you want to kind of explain what it is, how it works a little bit.
Yeah. So Bow Snatcher is a unit that you put it on top of your pack essentially, and it's got like a ninja star type looking thing that spins, and then you put a rod attachment between your stabilizer and your bow. So it screws on, and it's pretty snug. And then that rod attachment slips into the Bow Snatcher, and gravity keeps it from yanking or tossing out, or So the rod goes in between the star spokes, I guess you could say, and sinks to the bottom. So gravity is holding it on, and you can pretty much turn you can do like, I don't know, yoga moves, like do like 90-degree shifts, and that bow is not going to fall off. And generally, I've jumped, I've hiked with it, and it's pretty solid. So that's kind of a cool product that I keep on my pack at all times. Um, what else? Then I pretty much keep a lot of gadgets and scent stuff, scent balls, and like the Cirrus wind indicator. I have a Nikon spotting scope in here that is a beast, and I'm going to have to switch to some sort of compact vortex soon. That's the goal anyway. Yeah, so I do, in starting in November, I always attach rattling horns to my pack. So I have a set that I made here, but I also bought I don't know what they're called, but the ones that have handles in the middle, basically. They sound pretty good. I've rattled in a few deer with by rattling before, so I mean it's keeping that in November, or for Texas anyway. Texas, the rut in November and in early December is just, it's awesome. Or whenever it hits, it's not really, it's generally in November around Thanksgiving.
So you mentioned the rangefinder and the spotting scope.
Uh-huh.
Generally, with hunting in Texas, I know maybe a little bit more with spot and stock. How important are optics when you're bow hunting?
It's funny. I've heard people say both, that it's not that important because you're in bow range. You generally don't need it. I disagree with that philosophy because you don't. It sounds simple and trivial, and it's like, oh, duh. But can't tell you how many times people have thought wrong on this part. But you don't know what you can't see. So when you're spotting and stalking in Texas, there are definitely some areas where you can see for 300 or 400 yards at a time. So having a good set of binoculars is going to be. I always keep binos on my chest. I have a bino harness, so I keep that on my chest, and then the rangefinder clips on my pack. So that's just key. Like knowing the distance that you've got to close is crucial. Knowing the distance of your shot is going to be, it can make or break a shot. It can wound or kill an animal. So having a good set of optics, or any optics of that matter, are going to be, they're key. Once again, we have the technology. Why not use it? People put out good binoculars. Vortex is, I don't know. I have Nikon spotting scope and a Nikon rangefinder, and that's because it was pretty much handed down to me, and I've just used what I have. But man, I really can't say enough about Vortex and their customer loyalty and attention to customers is just top notch.
Absolutely, and they have that pretty much no questions asked lifetime warranty, right?
Yeah, there's a few others in the industry, and I've had one other company talk to me about, because I said, Vortex has the lifetime warranty, and they're like, yeah, that's cool. He's like, so do we, but we don't lead off with that. And I in the moment, I was like, yeah, you know what, you're right. But now I start to see it differently. I'm like, okay, the reason they lead off with that, or that's one of their things that everyone knows, is because things generally, when you have to cash in on that lifetime warranty, it's because something happened to your binoculars that was outside, or your optic that was outside of your control, not because you smashed them or threw them down on the ground on purpose. So I kind of I wish I had time to go back to talk to that guy that kind of told me that remark, because I would just totally tell him, like, I get what you're saying and I respect it, but more times than not, you won't see me throw my pair of binoculars. I won't chunk a rangefinder. A spotting scope, I never want to fall off a cliff, because generally if a rangefinder falls off, guess what? My phone is on a phone scope attached to it. That means my phone's going too. So nothing is on purpose. And that was another cool product that I keep talking about, phone scope. Another cool product that I keep in my pack on my phone anytime I go hunt. Like, I have a battery pack on my phone, but I take it off and I actually put my phone scope case on my phone the entire hunt. And then I have the universal, the U1 attachment that it'll go on my spotter. It'll go on my binoculars. So I'm one of those people that like to record everything. I love sharing the memory. I don't know. That's just another cool product that anytime a hunt comes up, Phone Scope's coming.
Awesome. As we're kind of winding down here, do you have any advice or words of wisdom for say a new hunter or someone like myself that's kind of lives in the middle of the city, didn't grow up with it, and wants to get into hunting but may kind of feel intimidated?
It seems like to me that this is such a deep topic and it's hard to answer in one sentence. So I'll do my best to kind of give you a summary of what I believe and what, hopefully your listeners can gain something from, and maybe, a tidbit that can help you as you go through the concrete jungle, in search for the next mountain peak. The biggest thing that I can say, and it's something I've learned throughout this 2017, I just actually did a post on this in a private group I'm a part of. And the biggest lesson I've learned is 2017 is to focus on bringing value to others. And that breeds opportunities like crazy. Because I used to be one of those people, and anything I did, I was always worried about the bottom dollar, and I was worried about what my return was going to be. And the more people I meet like that in the industry, or any industry for that matter, I'm turned off by, because I have witnessed the extreme opposite of that. Case in point, you're doing a website and getting to go hunt in Texas. You focus on bringing the value to that person, and they're going to bring value back to your life. Seizing those opportunities in moments where you feel like I should probably do this in exchange for money right now, and we should talk about money right now, but don't. When you're wanting something in life, whether it be hunting or to pursue another dream or a passion, is bring value to others. So we always have something to offer others. We always do. We have opportunities all around us to offer to others, like doing a podcast at your time, like it's 6:30 right now. You got up early as hell for this, and you're focused on bringing value to others. Like right now, people don't realize like the struggle or the uphill battle sometimes that you face doing these podcasts to bring value to others. So as you're listening to this and you're wanting to pursue your dreams of going hunting, or maybe it's to rise above and get a promotion somewhere, like just always come back to bring value to others. Like that's been my biggest takeaway of 2017. Like, quit focusing on ourselves and start focusing on others, and everything will fall into place. It's amazing. Like I don't know. Like sometimes I'm speechless at just like how profound that is in what I'm looking back on in 2017.
That's a super interesting way to think about things. And, I know I focused a lot on that in my career. And I've tried to, as far as, this podcast and everything, but it's just a very interesting way. I think people, I think Instagram, as far as, as it relates to the hunting community and everything, I think social media in general would be a lot different if people looked at everything they posted, or, whatever they were doing, and said, is this bringing value to something or to someone? Or is this just me, a little bit of self-aggrandizement, or me stroking my own ego? And, I'm not saying that I am good at that at all. I mean, I post crap all the time that's just probably me like patting myself on the back or something.
Well, there's something to be said about that too, right? Like you don't want to lose sight of the accomplishments that you've achieved because you've worked hard for them, but it doesn't come at a cost, and it doesn't come without you having brought value to others along the way. I mean, like there's Hunting Product Guru. I mean, in the podcast, it's bringing value to others, but it's because I'm consciously doing it. But I agree with you that there is definitely some of social media. The biggest one is, people can only see what they can see. So if you're putting good out there, you're doing good. A lot of people, they're going to find, I can post a lot of good stuff, but you're going to find the real true me in my Instagram stories. I'm at the gym. Me and my wife got pissed at each other. Like my kids are screaming. Oh, my kids love me today. My son hates me because I had to give him a spanking. Like, there's a life that I share with people because I want them to know. I want to bring the value to them that while you may think I'm I've had a lot of people say, man, you're just so awesome. You're doing this, you're doing that. And I'm just like, I'm just living life. Like, I'm living my life, and I want to share it with you because I've been put on this planet, I've found, to bring value to others. And whenever you find that that's the goal in life, or that technically should be the goal in life, when you bring value to others, many more opportunities just unfold for you. It's amazing.
So if people wanted to find Hunting Product Guru on the interwebs, where are we looking?
Yeah, so that got pretty tough pretty quick. But so you can find Hunting Product Guru at my website, huntingproduct.guru. That was another thing about whenever it started was, the domain .guru being available. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on Facebook. Both of those are at Hunting Product Guru. I also have a Twitter, which is Hunting Guru, because apparently Hunting Guru was taken and Hunting Product Guru is too long. So HUNTINGURU on Twitter. Reach out, connect any way I can help. Answer questions about bows, guns. If I don't know something, I'll tell you. If I don't know something, I'll tell you. I'll get research on it and get back to you. I'm a normal human being, as are you. We're doing our thing, living the life and trying to share with others.
Absolutely. And I'll make sure to I'll pull up those socials, make sure to link to them on the show notes page for this episode. It's going to be livingcountryinthecity.com/48 for episode 48.
Nice.
Well, man, thank you so much for hopping on. I appreciate it. Sharing your knowledge with the listeners. Man, I
can't thank you enough for having me on. And I think the favor is going to have to be repaid. So we're going to get you on the Hunting Product Guru podcast because there's a lot of interesting factors that I think you could bring back to the hunting community. So or back to the Guru Nation. So, man, thank you for having me on. And more importantly, I want to say thank you for accommodating my early schedule.
Well, let's see. I'm debating right now if I'm going to go crawl back into bed after this or try and go do something productive. We'll see. We'll see how the day goes. But thanks again, man.
That's awesome, Sam. You have a good one.
All right, y'all. That'll do it for episode 48 of Living Country in the City. Make sure y'all head on over to the show notes page at livingcountryinthecity.com/48. You can find all the links to get your Hunting Product Guru fix there, and also check out a lot of the gear that we talked about on the podcast. Also, make sure you give the Hunting Product Guru podcast a subscribe. You never know when you may hear a familiar voice on that podcast in the future. So make sure you check that out. Also, take a moment. Remember, check out my support page. There's a lot of cool options where you can really become part of the Living Country in the City. But in the meantime, keep it country, y'all.
Thank y'all for listening to Living Country in the City. Get show notes and check out the blog, product reviews, events, and more at livingcountryinthecity.com.
What the heck? I think my Alexa is like talking in the other room, like